Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Ready for another fascinating journey into cutting-edge tech?
Always excited to explore the bleeding edge.
Today, we're going deep on quantum computing, specifically Microsoft's Majorana 1 chip.
Ah, yes. Quite the buzz around that one.
Our deep dive today is based on some excellent analysis by Jörg-Owe.
Yeah. His work is always insightful. A great guide to this complex world.
Exactly. And let's be upfront, quantum computing can get pretty mind-bending.
Absolutely. But even if the math makes your head spin, the potential impacts are huge.
Exactly. So we're going to try to make it clear and exciting. Schneepat mentions Microsoft's been on this path for like 17 years, building up to this Majorana 1.
Yeah. That's a long time to be working on something. Really speaks to the complexity of this challenge.
So first things first, what's the big deal about stability in quantum computing? Why is that such a focus?
Well, you see, traditional qubits, the building blocks of quantum computers, are incredibly fragile.
Fragile how? What's the problem there?
They're super sensitive to any disturbance. The slightest environmental noise, a tiny change in temperature, it can all throw them off.
That doesn't sound very reliable.
Exactly. And when a qubit gets disturbed, it loses its quantum state. It's called decoherence, and it's like a constant battle in quantum computing.
So it's like trying to build a house of cards in a windstorm.
Pretty much. And that's why the Majorana 1 is so intriguing. They're tackling this fragility head on.
How so? What's different about their approach?
It all comes down to the type of qubit they're using. It's based on these particles called Majorana fermions.
Majorana particles, those are the ones? I always hear them described as kind of mysterious. Like, what are they exactly?
Yeah, they're a bit of an enigma. To put it simply, a Majorana fermion is its own antiparticle.
Hold on, its own antiparticle. You're going to have to explain that one.
All right, think of it like this. Every particle has an opposite, an antiparticle.
Okay, I'm following so far.
And when a particle and its antiparticle meet, they annihilate each other. Poof. Gone.
Like matter and antimatter colliding.
Exactly. But Majorana particles, they're like this weird exception. They're both particle and antiparticle at the same time.
Whoa, that's mind-bending.
It is, and that unique property makes them ideal for building these ultra-stable qubits.
So how does being your own antiparticle help with stability?
Because they're not easily disrupted by external noise. Their quantum state is sort of locked in because of this dual nature.
So it's like they have this built-in shield protecting them from decoherence.
You could say that. Now, where do we find these elusive Majorana particles? Schneepat mentions special superconductors.
Superconductors, right. The materials that conduct electricity with zero resistance.
Exactly. But we're not talking about your average superconductors here. These are very specific types.
What makes them so special?
Well, for one, they need to be kept incredibly cold, like fractions of a degree above absolute zero.
Colder than outer space.
Much colder. We're talking serious refrigeration to get these Majorana particles to show up.
That sounds like quite the engineering challenge.
Oh, absolutely. But the payoff could be huge, because these special superconductors allow the Majorana particles to form and become the foundation for these super stable qubits.
So let's get to the chip itself.
Yeah.
The Majorana 1. What's going on under the hood?
Well, it's made from layers of indium, arsenide, and aluminum, very carefully arranged to create these specific superconducting conditions we talked about.
To coax those Majorana particles into existence.
Exactly. It's a very delicate process.
And how many qubits are we talking about here?
Right now, the Majorana 1 only has 8 qubits.
8? That doesn't seem like a lot compared to some other quantum computers I hear about.
True, but there's a key difference here. It's not just about the number of qubits.
What else is there?
It's how they're designed. Schneepat highlights this tiling architecture that Microsoft's using.
Tiling? Like bathroom tiles?
Kind of. They can take these individual 8-qubit chips and basically snap them together to create larger and more powerful processors.
Ah, so they're going for scalability.
Exactly. They're not just aiming for a few dozen qubits. They're talking about reaching 1 million qubits.
1 million? Wow, that's ambitious.
Very. But this tiling approach, it's what makes that kind of massive scale-up potentially possible.
So what's so special about this tiling approach?
Well, one key factor is how they control the qubits. They're using digital voltage pulses instead of complex analog signals.
So it's a simpler control mechanism, easier to manage at scale.
Exactly, like flipping a light switch on and off rather than trying to fine-tune a dimmer switch. Much more robust and reliable when you're dealing with potentially millions of qubits.
That's fascinating. So we've got these super stable qubits, thanks to the Majorana particles, and a chip that's designed to scale to epic proportions. But let's get down to brass tacks here. What can this thing actually do?
Ah, yes. The million qubit question. The potential applications are vast. Schneepat dives into a few really interesting ones.
Like what? Give me some concrete examples.
Okay, let's start with materials science. Imagine being able to design self-healing materials.
Self-healing. Like Wolverine.
Kinda. But on a molecular level. Imagine a scratch on your car disappearing by itself.
Okay, now that's cool. How does the Majorana one make that happen?
Well, right now, simulating the behavior of molecules at that level of detail is incredibly difficult for classical computers. It takes immense computational power.
And a quantum computer could handle that.
Exactly. Quantum computers can handle these huge amounts of data and do complex calculations simultaneously. It's like they're built for this kind of thing.
So you could design new materials with specific properties just by simulating them on a quantum computer first.
That's the idea. And that's just one example. Schneepat also talks about breaking down microplastics.
Microplastics, that's a huge environmental issue.
Yeah, a big one. The idea is to use the Majorana 1 to design catalysts. Catalysts that can break down the complex chemical bonds in microplastics.
So a targeted solution.
Exactly. It's too much for a regular computer to figure out all those calculations. But a quantum computer, different story.
Amazing. What about other applications? I know Schneepat mentioned drug discovery and agriculture.
Yeah, both huge areas where quantum computing could have a big impact.
Let's start with drug discovery. How would that work?
Think about simulating the interactions between a drug molecule and a target protein, like at the atomic level.
Okay, and why is that important?
It could help speed up drug development like crazy. You could test potential drugs virtually on a quantum computer instead of spending years in the lab.
Oh, wow. So much faster and cheaper.
Right. And for agriculture. Think optimizing fertilizer use, developing crops that are more resistant to disease.
So using quantum computing to address global food security challenges.
Exactly. The possibilities are vast. But of course, Schneepat also points out that not everyone is convinced this is all going to work.
There's skepticism. About what?
Well, some scientists are questioning whether the Majorana particles are truly present in the chip. It's a complex experiment, and replicating those results is crucial.
So it's like, show me the proof.
Yeah, basically. And then there are the engineering challenges. Keeping the chip super cold, scaling it up to 1 million qubits, not easy tasks.
So it's a gamble, but with a potentially huge payoff.
Absolutely. The Majorana 1, it's a bold bet on a whole new approach to quantum computing. Only time will tell if it pays off.
Now, one thing I keep hearing about is a potential link between quantum computing and AI. Schneepat touches on this too, but I'd love to hear your perspective. How could a quantum computer like the Majorana 1 change the game for AI?
That's a great question. The connection between quantum computing and AI is really exciting. Think of it this way. AI algorithms, at their core, are complex math problems.
Right, lots of data crunching, right.
Tons of it. And training these AI models, refining them, takes huge amounts of computational power.
So a quantum computer could basically supercharge AI.
Exactly. Imagine a quantum computer working alongside an AI. The training process could be sped up exponentially. AI could tackle problems that are currently impossible for classical computers.
Like what kind of problems? Give me an example.
Think personalized medicine. An AI could analyze your entire genetic code and predict your risk for certain diseases. Or imagine an AI designing completely new materials just by analyzing existing data and running quantum simulations.
So next-level AI, powered by quantum computing.
Right. It's both fascinating and honestly a little scary. This technology could change everything.
It really does feel like we're on the verge of something huge. So to recap, the Majorana 1, with its super stable qubits and scalable design, it has the potential to revolutionize everything. But it's also a big gamble.
It is, and what's really amazing is, whether it succeeds or fails, the Majorana 1 is pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
It's forcing us to think differently about the future of technology.
Absolutely.
And that's what's so exciting about this field.
It's full of potential, that's for sure.
Big thanks to Jörg-Owe for his work on this topic. Really helped us get our heads around this.
Schneepat's analysis is excellent. Definitely worth a read for anyone who wants to go deeper.
Absolutely. Okay, folks, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive on the Majorana 1 chip, a potential revolution in quantum computing, all thanks to those quirky Majorana particles.
A fascinating story, and it'll be really interesting to see how this all unfolds.
Thanks for joining us, and as always, keep those minds curious.